Yeah, today the paper, the title is Climate Change and Marine Turtles, Recent Advances and Future Directions, Patricio et al. 2021. So what I would like to tell is first is probably just a little bit of backgrounds of biological aspects of sea turtles and what is mentioned or summarized by the paper about the potential impact of climate change, and also what the authors suggest about the knowledge gaps that has still exist, because yeah, sea turtles is pretty much challenging species to study. I can, I will come to that later. So to know about sea turtles, it's apparently they have already existed in Earth since hundreds of million years ago, which is this is evidenced by the by am I hosting? Sorry.
Let's
Maybe.
continue.
Oh, yeah. So the evidence of the fossils that have been found is that they are presumably not really changing with the modern turtles that we found uh, these days. But the difference is on the size. If I can see, it's quite nice graph here that this is the archelons of the fossils of archelons that is already extinct. It's around 13 feet. So it's what? Um, so it's like 2 times bigger than the largest species of sea turtles of leatherback. So now, um, even though we can say that they are living fossil animals, but it's only reduced now only with 7 species that is distributed widely from tropical until subtropical regions. And what is their traits? So we can see that sea turtles has long lifespan. So it can live until like more than 70 years old, and their age of maturity is quite old. So some experts says they mature in 15 years old, or others say like 35. So the range of maturations is between 15 to 35 years old. So this is also kind of also a trait that somehow that can adding to the cues about how they can now be vulnerable to be extinctions. But we can see that marine turtles are everywhere in the globe. So here there's a nice website called SWOTS. I forgot the abbreviation, something like Sea Turtles Watch. I will have to look it up. So this has quite large data about sea turtles of every various species around the world. So you can see its ranges from tropical to subtropical worldwide. You see, and also it has known to be have a long migration routes, especially with the largest uh, sea turtles, such as leatherbacks, that can travel through oceans. So there's um, some real studies shown that leatherback from the western parts of Pacific from the United States can travel across the Indian Ocean and reach to Papua in the eastern Indian Ocean. And this and what is there also important is that they have natal homing traits. Natal homing traits means that they have a capability of remembering their nesting their their birth nest their birth beach. So I mean, the female turtles, they can identify uh, the beach that where she was hatched, and then she came back again to the exact beach to lay some eggs. And this is also some variations that showed that it can also differ or slightly changed locations just around the region, but it's somewhere around there because yeah, due to the destructions of the previous beach. And the last traits was that it we called the temperature sex dependence. It means that their their gender is actually driven by the ambient temperature. So I think this is mostly happening to reptiles, animals. So it means that um, it when it's hatched, the sex was determined by the temperature of the nest. So the lower temperature of sands produce female hatchlings. Male hatchlings. So the lower produce males, and the higher temperatures produce females. So this traits is actually like the big um, uh, let's say the big traits that most likely there is will be influenced or maybe affected by climate change or global warming that's happening now. So, oh yeah, by the way, before that, I need to go back again with the seven sea turtle species here. So in the world we have seven species. We got Cam's ridley, olive ridley, loggerhead, leatherback, green, hawksbill, and flatback. So specifically in Indonesia, it is reported that there are 6 out of 7 species that exists in Indonesia with flatback still unreported, last reported getting nests, getting laid eggs, but I have some informations that in some sites such as in East Nusa Tenggara, they sometimes found flatback that uh, laid some eggs, but this is need to be proven because it's yeah, it's really how to say uh, not it's very poorly identified because I have until now I have not been shown any pictures of the turtles laid eggs, probably because also they are nesting during the night. So yeah, that's the species we have. And for this today presentations is based on these papers that just came to recently. So I think this is interesting and is also quite relatable of what issue that we face today. So as you may already know about these graphs, like they bombarded about the graph that our our oceans is getting warmer, our Earth is getting warmer, and what is maybe already the potential impacts of global warming or climate change to the environment and to also to humans. So today I think it is also interesting, also important to see what is the potential impacts of climate change towards endangered species such as sea turtles that we are talking about now. So in this paper, it's it talks quite large about some aspects of how climate change may impact sea turtles' life. So from their life cycle, so you can see that sea turtles have age maturations is more than 10 years, or sometimes you say 15 to 35 years old to reproduce. And then they have also some breeding patterns that it can range to 2 to 3 years of cycles, and the incubation periods of sea turtles well just vary with geographical scales and also species is falls between 50 to 70 days, but I have my data from West Java beach of green turtle nesting there. They have slightly faster incubation periods. So this, yeah, we can see that the sea level rise and temperature, theoretically, it can affect these three aspects of sex ratio, hatching success, and hatchling morphological and survival and performance, and also the sand temperature and precipitations will affect this of hatching success and also sex ratio because as I mentioned before that the sex was determined by the ambient temperature, and then the winds and circulations may affect the movements and the breeding patterns. But these two are, it is saying that it's yeah, it still needs to be studied because it's still a theoretical ideas that is need to be proven. And of course with the seawater temperatures, they say it's also with the movements. And yeah, I think also what we have um, endured so far about the emerging of diseases, this is also already happening, and this is also happening to sea turtles as well. So I would just explain just only a few summary of each aspects that is explained in this paper. For example, that climate change can effects on the populations that becoming biased to female sex populations. This is more I think this is because of the special traits about the temperature sex determinations. So if the sex ratio is extremely skewed, then what is potentially affecting the fertilization rates and also increasing the genetic drift of the population size. So to also to study about female bias sex ratios is also quite challenging because since I forgot because um, we cannot really uh, differentiate sex of the small hatchlings because there's um, not very strict features about their characters of what is males and what is females, and also their chromosome also not cannot be told um, uh, by the gene. So it's usually to know what is the gender or what is sex of the hatchlings. It's kind of invasive methods. It's through dissecting the hatchlings and to inspect the gonads there, or with less invasive methods is by taking the bloods of the hatchlings and to run an analysis of some testosterone hormones. So what the experts do uh, to study about the female bias sex ratios, usually uh, the researchers use temperature of the nest or nest temperature as cues because to so they calculate or they modeled how many percents of males and how many percents of females that is produced. And the second one, it may potentially also lowering hatching success rates because due to climate change, there can be first either the warming of the sand temperature, or even the really high precipitations that can even also lethal to the eggs, because it also can induce some fungi growing there, which is can make the eggs rotten, or even with high temperature also it cannot be hatched. So it's saying that here, even with small changes of nest environment occur, it may affect the hatching changes. So, for example, there's a review by Howard et al. That even with only 1 centigrade um, increase, it can really decrease hatching success by up to 25%. So this is problematic because um, there's, I don't know if it's it's being like anecdotal, that's saying that only 1,000 hatchlings that can grow up to adults. So the ratio is between 1 to 1,000 hatchlings that can survive. But this actually still, I don't know, it's still need to be proven. But um, well, even so, it is also the fecundity of citrus is quite low elsewhere, almost everywhere. So, and the third is about the effects on hatchling morphology, survival, and movement. So it's saying that yolk, or the more yolk of eggs, is converted to somatic tissue. So it's even more yolk than the size of the hatchlings are bigger. So it's saying that cooler nest has more yolks. So if we are facing um, increase in temperature with warmer sands, so that we might expect to have much smaller size of hatchlings, maybe more produced. And this is somehow need to be also further studied about their fitness. How is the fitness of the smaller size of hatchlings that is produced compared to the bigger ones. And this paper also um, discusses about the swimming performance. Also, is have not been covered much, as- because yeah, this for this might be also it's important because its swimming performance is very really important and influencing the survivals of the small hatchlings in the wild after they got hatched. And the fourth is about effects of breeding patterns. As before, it is studied and shown that citrus have breeding cycles of 2 to 3 years, and they have always cyclic migrations from breeding sites to from the feeding sites to breeding sites and nesting sites. And this is somehow have not yet been proven or still need to be um, investigated more because it, if we understand about how the climate change variables, it may also may be also impacting the timings of the migrations and also the courtships and also the durations of the nesting. So it's still many gaps on this study that we have shown. And also the questions about the effects of on movement and distributions at sea induced by the climate change. Also, this is really really important because um, now since the citrus is really heavily influenced by the currents and so on. So if there's any current changes or storm may affecting the distributions, or maybe that the higher latitudes of the earth may got warmer, maybe that citrus come there. It's still a question. Probably if if the if seas still keep warmer and warmer, probably there's citrus uh, swimming until Germany or Baltic Sea or somewhere. But this still very very large gaps in this. And for this, even with the advanced technique, it's still much less studied. Usually, the movement is investigated by the satellite transmitter and telemetry using some acoustics of sounds transmitting, and also by molecular technique doing some genetic signature. And the sixth, of course, about the effects on nesting area availability. This is, I think, this is already happening largely everywhere, while many islands or many beach or shorelines have been reduced due to the sea level rise. Yeah, now it's even getting more and more hard for the sitters to find locations to nest. So it's not only because of the high development of any certain sites, probably becoming a tourist like tourist objects, or already become some ports. So this the nesting area availability also, it's getting even worse with the sea level rise issues or problems that we still have so far. And but still very very few studies covering about what is the effects of storms and reduced shorelines. So there's some study, but still patchy around the world. And the last ones was the emerging of disease and pathogens could be could likely to be more occur. For example, there's this major disease of sea turtles around the world getting fibropapillomatosis here. So this occurs almost everywhere. So it's saying that they get these bumps and also some like this is a tumor that is we don't know what's the cause. Probably is because of already more toxic um, marine environments, and it's maybe it's even with the climate change or more this virus also this kind of virus also maybe can be more harmful to that. So I think this is the potential impacts of what oops have been discussed so far. And as I told you before, is there's a lot of gap of knowledge, and I don't want you to yeah read all of it, but it's saying that there's so much gap of knowledge that we know so far about Citro's um, at, status here, what we really know, and even what we don't know later on about the impacts of the uh, climate change. And there's also need some strategy to reduce climate change impacts towards this endangered animals, also for other environment, particularly in marine environments. And there's needs a lot of studies to be here. So I think this is my last site. Yeah. So I think yeah. So I will end this. That even though you know that the citrus have already existed since million years ago, but now it's yeah the warming or the climate change is getting severe. It may get already lost because it's already down to 7 species, or maybe then only a few decades then we only see sea turtles only in sea aquarium. So hopefully we can protect them. So yeah, so it's end of my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you
So
very much, Yuli.